One of the more important aspects of upland hunting is playing the correct wind direction. And so typically we kind of want that wind in our face. And that wind in our face does a couple things. One of the big things it does, particularly if you're hunting with a bird dog, is it creates a nice scent cone from the bird. And so the scent cone is just kind of a column of scent that is being pushed by that wind. And so that allows the bird dog to then be kind of searching through that field and pick up on that scent cone, and then hopefully over time it can start to kind of triangulate where that bird is kind of exactly at. But when we're working through a field with a dog, we don't want to work just kind of straight into the wind. We want the dog to begin kind of quartering back and forth, and that allows the dog to essentially cover as much ground as possible and to hopefully pick up on these scent cones that might be scattered throughout the field. And so if you can kind of think of it like a bowling alley. If that dog is just kind of working straight down an individual lane, chances are, unless that bird is in that specific lane he's searching, he's not going to find it. And so doing this kind of nice quartering fashion kind of across the field back and forth will allow it to hopefully pick up on any scent cones that may be coming from further ahead in the field. When we're thinking about upland hunting over bird dogs, there's essentially two distinct bird dog groups. You have the flushing breeds and the pointing breeds. Pointing breeds will indicate game by freezing in place. And depending on the experience level of the dog, typically they're trained to hold that point and allow the handlers to move in front of the dog to flush the bird. In contrast to pointing breeds, flushing breeds essentially have one main job, and that job is to find the bird and get that bird in the air as quickly as possible. So now that we've discussed the kind of basic distinctions between the two bird dog groups, it's important to understand how this affects us as hunters and how we would strategically hunt a specific field. So pointers, again, are going to indicate where the bird is by kind of freezing in place. And so that allows hunters to allow the pointing breeds to move a little bit further ahead of the hunting line, because, again, they're going to freeze in place and allow the hunters to then catch up and flush the bird themselves. In contrast, the flushing breeds, you want to keep somewhat close to the hunting line because, again, they're typically not going to indicate where that bird is. They're just going to immediately flush it. And so you want to make sure when that flush does happen, it's within your effective range, depending on your specific shotgun setup. Where a pointing breed, you can let work out a lot further ahead because, again, it's going to give you time to move into position to then flush the bird yourself. Typically with flushing breeds, we like them to stay about 25 yards. 30 to 40 yards is kind of the max. Now, a more experienced handler and a more experienced flushing dog will oftentimes work a little bit far in advance, but that requires a really strong relationship between the handler and the dog so that the handler can start to detect when that bird dog is on scent and hopefully get up to close the distance before that flush does inevitably happen.